Danny Higginbotham is still with us, and we're not going to talk to you about Manchester United, Danny, for I think the first time ever. Julien Laurens joins the show as well, because, Danny, we wanted you to give us your Premier League Team of the Year so far. And I tell you what, there was one thing that just jumped off the page when I looked at this, Danny, and that was no Sadio Mane.
Yeah, I think, obviously Mane and Salah, they will be in, I'm sure, numerous people's teams. But I just think when you look at Ings, what he's done for Southampton, without them, they'd have been relegated this season, and he won't be a lot of people's choice. But for him to score the amount of goals that he's scored in a team that's really struggled, it doesn't necessarily have to be, the players from the top teams in the Premier League. And I just thought I would look about for the individual, what they've done, how they've had such an effect on their team. Because like I say, Southampton, you take him out of that team, they would get relegated. I look at Mane, would they win the Premier League without him? You could still say they could do because of the ability that they've got in that team. But I just think Ings has been absolutely outstanding this season. And let's not forget, it took him a while to get into the team, and he's still managed to get 15 Premier League goals.
Sadio Mane, Danny.
Yeah. What, you want me to say why I haven't picked him?
Yes. It's a man who's been key. You can argue he's been the player of the year.
Sorry?
You could argue he's been the player of the year.
No, I don't think that he has been the player of the year. And obviously we'll get onto that next. But I just think when I look at individual players or what they've brought to a team, I look at Ings, I look at Vardy, top goal scorer in the Premier League. I look at Aubameyang, top goal scorer for Arsenal, scored 17 goals. Arsenal have only scored 40 goals, so he's near enough got half of the goals that Arsenal have scored. Leicester, Jamie Vardy, still doing it at the age that he is, top goal scorer. So Mane, yes, I understand it. People are saying, I can't believe you're saying that, but at the end of the day, the reason I've said it is because I look at that Liverpool team and they're an outstanding team. This is about individuals that, in particular, for Ings's inclusion, that have stood out in a team that haven't stood out. Arsenal this season, they've been well below average. Aubameyang has stood out. Vardy has completely changed the way that he plays the game, the way that he now, in my opinion, is the all-round centre forward, the way that players are feeding off him. So that's why I've gone for those three up front instead of Mane. And like I say, I'll probably get a bit of stick for it, but I'm looking at an individual basis and what they're actually bringing to a team, in particular Southampton and Arsenal. Otherwise, where would they be in the league without them?
Jules?
I would put Sadio Mane in my team. I get everything that Danny is saying. I think Mane, it's not just, 17 goals and 8 assists, which that's still a lot of goals in a season. It's also in the key moments where Liverpool were drawing or sometimes even losing. Not that happened a lot. And he was there. He was the clutch man. He was the key man to get the 3 points and to get them on that incredible run that they went on to. So I think I would have Mane there. I would have Ings as well, and Vardy. Aubameyang is the one for me that would not make it in my team of the year, and I would have Sadio Mane instead.
Anything else for you, Jules, that you disagreed with?
I love Danny, and I respect a lot of his team, but no, I'm kidding. So I would go with Henderson in goal because I think Sheffield United have been incredible, and Chris Wilder, both me and Danny would pick him as the manager of the year without even a debate. But I think Henderson has been so key in what Sheffield United have done this season. He's been outstanding on his line. I think he's a wonderful young keeper. He's learning fast. He's listening. I think he's got a lot of good, very positive thing about himself as a person as well as a football player. So I would put him ahead of Alisson. There will be no Henderson, the other Henderson, Jordan Henderson in my team, and Wilfred Ndidi for me has been the best defensive midfielder in the league so far this season. And I would have had also Georginio Wijnaldum, who is for me the most intelligent player that we have in the Premier League right now.
Let's talk about Jordan Henderson then in a little more detail, shall we? Danny has named him as the player of the season. Jules, I'm guessing if he's not in your team of the year, he's not your player of the season.
No, he's not. I have to say, I've never been a big fan of the player Henderson. I think he's a great guy, and has got a lot of qualities as a person, and in terms of leadership is great, and why he represents for Liverpool Football Club and what Liverpool means to him as well. This is brilliant, and that's all great, and I think Klopp has taken his game to the next level. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the player. And that's why for me he's not the player of the year. I think Wijnaldum, if you take a Liverpool player, deserve it more because, like I said, he's so intelligent. He's the one that can do everything in that team. He's the one that Klopp relies on a lot, I think, in midfield to do the link between the back four and the three up front, to clean it up in midfield, to boss the games, but also to score goals, even if he can score more. And that's one of a debate we had with Stevie Nicol on the show a few weeks ago. But yeah, for me, Wijnaldum is an amazing football player.
Danny?
Yeah, the reason I've gone for Henderson is that there's two things that stand out from this season. So one was the Watford game, their only defeat this season. Henderson was missing, and I think a lot of the times you realise how good a player is when they're not actually involved in the game. And then I go back to the Manchester City home game as well, where they won 3-1. You know, tactically, Klopp got it absolutely spot on. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Manchester City looked to really target him. So what Klopp did, he played near enough a 4-4-1-1, and he played Henderson as a right winger. Allowed Trent Alexander-Arnold to stay back. Henderson got the assist. And I just think it's what he brings to the team. We've seen, you know, a lot of people associate him with just being this defensive midfielder. We've seen him getting further forward this season. He's got more goals. He's getting more assists. And I just think the leadership that he brings to that team as well. Liverpool are a better team with him in it. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And whether that's playing as a defensive midfielder or being a more attack-minded, I think he just brings the best out in other players around him. And I think the one thing that's always been asked of Henderson, and it would have been the same for anybody else that went to Liverpool, a central midfielder that's the captain, you're always going to be compared to Steven Gerrard, which is ridiculous in my opinion, because Steven Gerrard was a one-off. You know, he's such an exquisite player, and he was always going to be difficult to replace. But I just think that Henderson has found himself now at Liverpool. He's found his role there, and he's found a way to actually, you know, lead that team and be the leader on the pitch that we've seen time and time again for him. So that's why I've gone for him. And, you know, sometimes the players that do get it, the ones that are always pleasing on the eye. But other times there'll be players like myself, you appreciate players like Jordan Henderson because at times he'll do the dirty work to allow other players to go and express themselves higher up the pitch.
Meanwhile, you both agree that Chris Wilder should get manager of the season ahead of Jurgen Klopp. I don't get this. I don't get this at all, considering what Liverpool have achieved, how extraordinarily dominant they have been. I understand it's nice. Sheffield United favourites to get relegated. Look at what he's done. But surely we're just taking Jurgen Klopp's work, aren't we, Danny, at Liverpool for complete and utter granted. You bring in a manager to win you titles, and that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, he has done that. And the one thing I would say, if the summer before the season started, if I would have said to you, Sheffield United have got a chance for Champions League football or Liverpool are going to win the Premier League, what would you have said's more likely? It's as simple as that.
Then if I was to say to you, Liverpool were going to win the Premier League in the dominant fashion, they would only lose one game along the way. They would absolutely sweep aside every single opposition. I understand Sheffield United doing what they've done is brilliant, and Chris Wilder has done an exceptional job with the players that he's got. But could Chris Wilder have won the title with Liverpool in the way that Jurgen Klopp has done? I think Jurgen Klopp could have kept Sheffield United up. I'm not sure Chris Wilder could have achieved what Klopp has done at Anfield.
The way I look at it was that, you know, but for Manchester City being absolutely sensational last season and going on that incredible run towards the end of the season, Liverpool would have won the league. Are Manchester City better than what they were last season? No, they're not. They're not as good as what they were last season. They've lost Vincent Kompany. They've had, you know, the injuries in the centre-back position. Laporte, arguably one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. Fernandinho has had to move back there. We know the problems that Tottenham have had. Chelsea bringing in a new manager as well, bringing younger players through. We know the problems that Arsenal have had, that Manchester United have had. There's a number of teams that are in a transitional period. In my opinion, you know, Liverpool, unbelievable. They've been absolutely outstanding this season. But I would have been more surprised if Liverpool didn't win the league this season because of what I've just mentioned about the clubs that you would perceive to be challenging, who haven't had a good season for one reason or another, are in transition, have lost players, have had injuries to key players. Whereas when you look at Klopp and you say, OK, well, you take over Sheffield United, there's no way that team would potentially have finished in the Champions League. So I think it's a greater achievement for what Chris Wilder has done to get this team onto the cusp of actually getting Champions League football in their first year in the Premier League, arguably finishing above Manchester United, arguably finishing above Arsenal, arguably finishing above Tottenham. Tottenham, Arsenal, and Manchester United have spent more on one player than I would probably say Sheffield United have spent on the whole of their squad. So that's why I'm going for Sheffield United and Chris Wilder without question in my mind.
Okay, Jules, I get it. You know, they've done well, but everyone has been rubbish this season. And what I mean by that is the fact that Danny mentioned Arsenal, Tottenham, United, they're all in transition. So finishing above them, brilliant for Sheffield United. And yes, they've done it on a budget, but none of these teams have been any good. And now you can keep going down the league and it just gets worse and worse and worse when it comes to quality. So what Chris Wilder has done he's organised his team. He's got them playing good football on the pitch. They're getting great results. I get it, but his achievement isn't the holy grail to keep Sheffield United up in the Premier League, which is pretty dreadful at the moment.
But the holy grail is not for them to stay up. That would have been great had they finished 17th with 25 points, if that had been enough. The holy grail is that they can finish 5th. They can even finish 4th and qualify for the Champions League. That's why it's so good. It's their first season in the Premier League. That's his first season as well in the Premier League. It's not like if he'd spent 10 years at United and then 5 at Arsenal and 5 at Chelsea and then he went back to Sheffield United because that's his club and all of that and he's taken them there. No, that's also his first season in the Premier League. That was all new for him, like it was for his players, and for him to take them where they are now, playing the way they played. And listen, it's not just playing nice football. It's all the tactical knowledge that he brought. It's those centre-backs in the back three that were overtaking the full-backs. It's all those ideas that he had, everything that he does at training as well. I just think it's magnificent. And yes, Klopp has done a great job. But like he did last year, he had 97 points last year. So in a way, they've been very consistent, albeit at an incredible top. But for Chris Wilder to be where he is with his team and with that squad, I think by far deserves to be the manager of the year.
If you go back 5 or 6 years as well, if you go back 5 or 6 years and you look at Sheffield United under Chris Wilder when they were in League One, and you watch a game in League One and you watch them now, they play exactly the same way. He believes in his philosophy, he believes in his identity, and he trusts his players. Because let's not forget, this is a team that has players that were with him in League One. Then he signed some players in the Championship, and then he signed more players when they came to the Premier League. It's an incredible achievement. And like Jules has just said, Liverpool had an unbelievable season last year. So I was going into this season thinking, it'd be interesting to see whether City can keep this up, because if not, Liverpool will win the league. But I wasn't thinking for 1 minute Sheffield United were potentially going to finish 4th. I thought they'd stay up because of their style. But they're having an incredible season. And like I say, you know, I know Liverpool have walked away with the Premier League and they've been absolutely brilliant. But what Sheffield United have done and Chris Wilder and his group of players, I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.